Hello class, this is your teacher Mr. McDougall with your next Photoshop tutorial. We are going to learn about artboards. These are how we can edit multiple files at the same time. This will be our last classwork assignment before our first project in the next lesson. So this will also be the last time I'm going to walk you through the downloading exercise files process. After this, I'm just going to skip that whole process and just go right to opening the files in Photoshop because you should get the hang of it by now. But I'll go through it one more time just in case you don't get it. Click on the exercise files, click on the three dots, go to open a new window, and then we'll see we have this download icon. So I'll click the download icon. That will put it in our downloads folder. And close this. Open the Finder, go to our downloads, and here's our zip folder with the files. We've got to double click on it to extract it. And you'll see when you do that, you have the zip folder and then the blue folder with the same name. The blue folder is the one that we want. So the zip folder is now useless. We can right click and move to trash. Now we have this, but let's first move it out of our downloads into a Google Drive folder. So right click, new Finder window, move this, go to your Google Drive, My Drive, Intro to Graphics, make a new folder for today. This one's called 506 Artboards. And that's where we're going to move these files to right here. So you'll see there's only two for today, and you're only actually going to pick one. So I'm going to show you how we're going to mess around with these files right here in Photoshop. So let's open them both up. Grab our files and drop them right in Photoshop to have them both open. Only two files, we're just going to work on one. But in order to do that, we need to create our artboard, which means just like in the previous lesson, we need to create a new file to get started. So go to File and then New, or Command N is the shortcut. And for this one, we're going to call it Artboard. So as always, give it a title. Don't just leave it as untitled. This one will be called Artboard. And we're going to start by doing an Instagram square. And an Instagram square, if you remember from the last one where we did 180 and then some math, an Instagram square is 180 by 180. So this should still be pixels, and both of these should say 180. That will make it a perfect square. Before you hit create, there is one last box we're going to check for today, and that is this one that says Artboards right here. Check this box, and now we can hit create. So now you'll see we have a square, and our layout looks pretty much the same, except there's a couple of things that are different. Now it says Artboard 1 and it says Artboard 1 right here in our layers panel. So the artboard is essentially a group that we can mess around with all together. So for this one, let's change the name because we're going to make more than one artboard on this layout. So if you come over here to double click, change the name just like we did in the other exercise files. This one will be 180 by 180. So in order to type that, I do 180x 180. The x is like by, like 1 by 1. And it also changed the name up here. You'll see when I changed the name here, it affected this as well. So now we're going to create a couple of artboards. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and move it around. You'll see that your move tool is slightly different. There's the artboard tool and the move tool, which are grouped together. And as you try to move it, you might see that these will they will have some weird properties. So if you try to move this like that with the move tool, it doesn't always work. That's where the auto select comes in again. If I click on this, now I can move this artboard around by turning off auto select and making sure I have the right artboard highlighted. We're going to create a new artboard, so we're going to actually edit multiple things at the same time. So let's go up to Layer, New, and then we're going to do Artboard right here. So this one is going to be different dimensions. This one's not going to be a square. This one's going to be made for an Instagram story. So the dimensions of an Instagram story are 1080 by 1920. So that's what we're going to do, and that's what we need to put down here as well. The reason I'm naming it that is so you'll easily know which one is which. So the width is going to say is 1080. The height is going to change to 1920. Just like that. And now click OK. And now you see we have another artboard next to it. And this is a 9:16 aspect ratio, which we learned about when we did cropping. And I mentioned that this is the size of your phone when you have it vertical and you're looking at a story. We're going to do one more new artboard. Let's do one for a YouTube mobile banner. So let's go to Layer, New, Artboard one more time. And the dimensions for a YouTube mobile banner are 1546 by 423. And that's what we're going to type again right here. So the width is going to be those exact numbers, 1546, and this one is 423. And then click OK. So now we have these, and again, we can move them around. If you have the Artboard tool selected, you should just be able to move it, or use the Move tool and turn off Auto Select so you can move them around however you like. So now we have 3, all with the specific names. Here's our square, here's our story, and here's our YouTube banner, and they're all grouped up right here as well. So what Artboards allows us to do is edit all of these at the same time. If you are the social media manager for a company and you're being tasked with making a post and making a story and making a YouTube thumbnail, instead of doing them all individually on their own tabs like this, an Artboard allows us to do it all at once and maximize our efficiency in our work. So now let's bring in one of those exercise files to be as our background. So pick just one of these. It doesn't matter which one. Pick either the heart or the light bulb. Either one doesn't matter. And we're going to bring it in. I'm going to use my Move tool, or you can copy paste. We're going to bring it into our Artboard. So I'm going to drag it right here, and I'm going to try and drop it right there. So wherever you try to drop it, it doesn't really matter what happens. You can see I tried to drop it in the square, but it landed in the story over here. It actually landed in this one. It's okay if that happens because we can move it around just by adjusting the layer order on this panel. If I click it and drag it down into the 180 panel, now it's in here. Now it's in my square post right there. Before you adjust the size, we are going to convert this into a smart object so we don't cause any permanent damage, and it's going to have one other effect in just a moment as well. So come over here to this layer, right click on it, convert to smart object. This will protect it for when we adjust the size, and we'll have one other benefit I'll show you right now. Let's rename the layer. So I'm going to rename this one to bulb. If you went with the heart one, you could rename it to heart. That's fine. But now I can adjust the size to fit my square. That's perfect. Make sure you adjust it, or make sure you convert it to a smart object first, because we're going to create 2 more duplicates for these other artboards right here. But do the smart object first. If you duplicate it and then smart object, the next effect I'm about to show you is not going to work. So it's a smart object, so it's good. So let's do Command J to duplicate it twice. Command J, Command J. I have 2 copies, and now I can move them into the other artboards. So this copy, let's move up into this one. Now I can see that it's down here. I might shrink it a little bit too so it fits a little bit better. That looks good. And let's take this copy and move it up into the story. Right there. Now you can see I have 3 copies that all fit, and now let's adjust the size of this one. Let's see, right about there. That might be a little too big. We'll see. That's it. Get it wherever you like. If you want a different place, it doesn't have to match mine exactly. If you're using the bulb one, if you want it more off to the side, that's fine with me. Go ahead. Or if you're using the heart one, just adjust it wherever you like. This is still about experimenting and just kind of figuring out where things can go. All right. So, again, we are editing these in a fun, fast, efficient way so we can edit them all together. And again, instead of editing them one at a time, the smart object and the artboards allowed me to edit everything simultaneously. So let's dive in and edit all of these light bulbs now at the same time. In order to do that, come over here to the first bulb, this little one, where this little smart object icon is, right there. So on the thumbnail, you see the little smart object icon. Double click on that icon right there, and that opens this up in a separate panel. This is not the original file. This one's the original file, Artboard 1. Here's our artboard. This is what we just dove into, was the layer 2, and it says PSB. So what we just did, if you ever used to watch Blue's Clues, you know when the character would kind of dive into a painting, like we started big and we zoomed in, jumped into this painting. That's what we did right here. We're kind of zoomed in on that thumbnail. This is that tiny thumbnail we just saw, and we're zoomed in on it. Now we're going to make some changes. So now let's add a gradient overlay to it. Something we haven't done for a few lessons. Let's go to our effects. Click on our layer. Let's go to FX, and we're going to do a gradient overlay. So the gradient overlay will be left off on default on whatever your last one was. So you can create a kind of gradient overlay however you like. If you want to do 3 colors again or down to 2, if I want to take this and hit the trash can, now I just have 2 colors and I can mix it up. We practiced this when we did the shapes. Maybe something like that. Mix up your colors however you want. Perfect. Whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. The thing you'll notice now is that it's completely covered my image, and now I can't see it anymore. One thing I didn't mention about gradients last time is when you're using gradients on an image is you want to change the blending mode right here. So where it says blending mode normal, change this to any of these other options. And as you scroll through and choose new ones, you'll see what it does. It takes my gradient and it blends it with the image. It changes how it interacts with the image. So it's taking these colors now and it's affecting the image. So scroll through each one of these and you can see how each one has different effects and different options. Ooh, I like that color burn one. That one looks cool. Kind of go through until you find one that you like. You might like that or something completely different. Linear dodge. There is no right or wrong answer. Pick one. Hard light, soft light, vivid light. Pick one that you like. I really dug that color burn one. I like this. I'm going to go with that. Perfect. Pick one that you like to add this cool gradient effect to it. If you go back to the artboard, you'll see that all of these are still untouched. These all still look the same. But the reason we did the smart object and we dove in like that is to do this. Check this out. If I go back here to this one's different. All I got to do is hit Command S to save it. If I hit Command and then S, boom, it's been saved. Now if I go back to my artboard, bang, all of them have been affected. So they're all connected as smart objects, which is super cool. So if I get word that, hey, these colors don't work, we need to change the colors, I can always just go back and do it again. I can go back to my gradient right here, and I could change to a different one. Maybe I do the linear burn, or just change the colors completely. Let's go with that. Okay. And then hit Command S to save again. Every time I save it, it affects it on this one right here. So that's why they're all connected as smart objects, which is super cool. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to create a subscribe button on these. Again, we'll duplicate it to edit them all at once. So let's start with our rectangle tool. Click on your rectangle tool, and let's just draw a simple rectangle on here. I'm going to make mine red because that's usually what you see for a subscribe button. Excellent. And then let's center it right there. That looks good. Now we're going to add some text. So let's go to our type tool again. And if you start typing inside of a shape, what might happen is that it will create a text box for the shape. Otherwise, if it doesn't, you can just click and drag to draw and it will create a text box. So you see if I clicked in the shape, it actually boxed my text to stay inside the shape. So I'm going to put subscribe like that. Let's make it nice and big. I can center it. Get it to where it fits. It's looking pretty good right there. There we go. Excellent. I like that. Right about there. Perfect. It's okay to move it around, and if it doesn't work, just Command Z, try again. So now I have my subscribe button right here and my rectangle. They are separate. So if I try to drag them, right now they're separated, but I can combine them as well. Right there. So if I hold Shift to select both of them, if I click this one and click this one, you see that they're being selected separately. But if I click on it, hold Shift, click the other one, now they are together. And another thing I could do is put them in a group to make it easier to move. If I click this little file folder right here, it puts them into their own little group, and now I could duplicate the whole group and move it since they're separate layers. So on this group right here, let's Command J and Command J to create copies, and let's move them to the other artboards. Perfect, just like that. And if you want to readjust them, just open them up and move them around again. I can click subscribe and hold shift to click this one, and now I have them both selected, and now I can move them both together however you want. I could do the same thing on this one. Let's go to this one. Let's say right about there. Perfect. So now I can rapidly edit all of these together. And they say, if my boss says, hey, I need an Instagram post, I need a story, I need a new YouTube banner, I can do all of this right now. And if I need to change the color again, I just go back to this one and I can mess around with the gradient again, however I need to. Now, once you're all done with this, just like in the previous project, even though this is classwork, I want you to export this again. Instead of giving me a screenshot, you're going to go to File and Export, Export As, and this will allow you to export all three at the same time. This should still be on JPEG, and if we go over here, you'll see that all three of them are selected in their own way. So if I click Export, I just need to tell it where to save. So if I go to my drive, and then I go to my Artboards, save it here. So now it's exported all three of them. So now they're all ready for posting, ready to go. Here are my exercise files right here. Here's the square one, here's the story, and then here's my YouTube banner. So they're all good to go. And this, again, is how you can edit multiple things at the same time. And this will tie in directly to our first project in the next lesson. So make sure you're having fun. You do not need to take a screenshot of this one. You just need to turn in your 3 exported files right here. Okay? Have fun, and let me know if you have any questions.